Hey yo, what the fuck is up, y'all? It's Baron again, and today we're looking at Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary. Released 3 years after Halo Combat Evolved for the original Xbox, Bungie was gonna make or break the series based on this game. Did they succeed? Well, obviously they fucking succeeded, but we gotta see what the game is like. Just as before, I'm playing on the Master Chief Collection on PC on Heroic difficulty. That's all you gotta know, so let's get right into this shit. Let's get right into the story. The story in this game is way better than Halo Combat Evolved. The writing is just a lot more interesting and especially picks up near the end. The cinematics in this game are also way improved, as where before, the cutscenes consisted of models doing shitty animations and nodding their heads, now they have way more compelling scenes and slightly less shit animations. Like, I'm not huge on action scenes, but this?
Just one question. What if you miss?
I won't.
Was pretty fucking awesome. I don't know, Halo 2 has a lot of iconic scenes and I think they're pretty great. I enjoyed most of the cutscenes throughout the game. I also just wanted to add as a side piece that there's a few scenes where Master Chief flies into the camera. I don't know what their obsession was with this angle, but it just kinda reminded me of a certain animatronic character. My only real complaint with this game's story is the ending. It ends on kind of a cliffhanger, but not the kind of cliffhanger like, oh, I wonder what happens. More of a cliffhanger like they just ran out of time to finish the story. It just feels kinda half-assed. But I guess since I mentioned how it felt rushed, there's not really a better time to talk about the development of this game. Halo 2 had a notorious development cycle, having the whole game reimagined and rebuilt with only 10 months until the game's release. Developers at Bungie were working literally around the clock to get this game out. Many ambitious ideas and parts of the story were completely cut or altered to be able to release the game on time. Well, I think for the most part the game seems pretty intact and it's hard to tell it was rushed without being told beforehand. The story definitely feels a little rushed towards the end. Halo 3's story is basically just the second half of Halo 2, which is why the ending feels kinda shitty and leaves a bit to be desired. But it cannot be understated that this game was rushed as fuck. But let's talk about the art style. I don't love it. The game kind of centers around this orangish color palette, which I don't think looks awful, but sometimes the game just looks drab. I don't know. There's some areas that do look great, like here on Cairo Station, but there's a lot of parts that just don't look amazing to me. I guess it just doesn't stand out as much as the brightness of Combat Evolved. It doesn't look awful though, it's just not my thing. Now let's talk about the new additions to the combat in this game. The assault rifle's gone. Yep. Yeah, before we really get into the new additions and the gameplay in Halo 2, we can't ignore the absence of the assault rifle. You know, the weapon you get in like every single fucking mission in Halo 1. It's not even in the fucking game. In its place, we get the battle rifle, a burst rifle capable of long-range combat. It's actually a really fun gun to use and changes up the gameplay quite a bit. Whereas in Combat Evolved, I was mainly using the Magnum and using the assault rifle to kill Flood. The battle rifle is actually a good gun to use against normal enemies, unlike fucking old Unreliable back in Halo 1. It's actually a pretty ballsy move by Bungie to remove the primary iconic weapon in Halo 1, like the weapon everybody remembers. But I think the battle rifle kind of takes a place sharing the spotlight with the assault rifle now, for the most iconic rifle in Halo. And it's not like the assault rifle is completely written off in Halo 2, there's still the SMG, which feels kind of like the AR from Halo 1. The SMG might actually be even more accurate. But there's a lot of new weapons in Halo 2 that are mostly just alien versions of human weapons. The beam rifle is the sniper rifle, the carbine is the battle rifle, the fuel rod cannon is the rocket launcher, and there's also the brute shot, which is kind of like a rocket launcher. While it sounds kind of lame when I put it like that, the weapons are different enough on both sides and definitely add to the fun of the combat now that there's way more weapons. There's also new weapons that weren't usable before, like the energy swords some elites would hold in Halo Combat Evolved, and the Sentinel beam that the Sentinels used. A lot of iconic weapons come straight from Halo 2 and later became mainstays in the entire series. There's basically no weapon that feels useless, except for the shotgun kinda, the Sentinel beam, and this game's version of the Magnum. It's pretty shit. But of course, we can't forget about the ability to now dual-wield one-handed weapons. You lose the ability to throw grenades, but you get double the damage output, which adds a bit more strategy throughout the game. You can also mix and match which weapons you're dual-wielding, allowing for another layer of strategy. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's a cool addition to the game overall. Another layer of gameplay too is the addition of the Arbiter. The Arbiter is a completely new character in Halo 2 that you get to play as throughout the campaign. Some missions you still play as the Chief, but there are a good few missions where you get to play as the Arbiter and explore more of the Covenant through story and gameplay. The big gimmick with the Arbiter is not only is he an elite, so you're basically playing for the other side of the war, but you also get the ability to camouflage temporarily, replacing Chief's flashlight. A way better addition, and makes the Arbiter's gameplay feel fun and fresh, but not so different that it doesn't feel like Halo. The Arbiter is a great addition because he adds a lot to the story, but also in gameplay as well. My only complaint is that even though the Arbiter is allied with the Covenant for most of the campaign, you never get to fight any human enemies. Like, what the fuck were they thinking? That would have been so cool. Speaking of enemies to fight, there's the new species of the Covenant known as the Brutes. They're introduced in the last third of the game and play sort of like elites, just without the shield and focus a bit more on melee attacks, while also using new weapon, singular, the Brute Shot. I think they're pretty fun to fight and mix up the gameplay a bit. The only other change to the enemy pool that I can think of is the Flood, and I fucking hate them now. Unlike in Combat Evolved, the Flood in Halo 2 have way more health and are way stronger. There's also a new ability Flood can do, which is reanimating dead bodies to turn them into Flood. I think that the Flood in Halo 2 is bullshit, and this is why. In Halo 1 you had the Assault Rifle, which, for all its flaws, was still good at wiping out hordes of Flood. You also had the Shotgun, which could blast down those stronger types of Flood with ease, because Halo 1's powerful ass shotgun. Those were usually my two guns in Halo 1 for fighting Flood. But in Halo 2, not only do you not get the Assault Rifle, but the shotgun is dog shit, which basically leaves you with no strong weapons for taking out Flood. Sometimes you get an energy sword or something, but since the Flood has way stronger melee in Halo 2, you can get knocked the fuck out pretty easily if you get close to the Flood. You could also argue that the SMG replaces the Assault Rifle, but since the SMG really isn't that good for most other instances, you likely wouldn't be carrying it just for Flood. And either way, the Flood in Halo 2 just feels way less like hordes of zombies chasing you. You know, like a Flood. It just feels like a lot less enemies that are way stronger, which I don't think is that fun. Luckily, you play as the Arbiter in most of these missions where you have to fight the Flood, so I just camouflaged past every single encounter, because fuck you. I guess there's also this other new group of enemies. They're called Buggers. They fly around and shoot at you, and you shoot them back. That's basically all they do. There's also new vehicles this time around. For one, you can now drive the Wraith, which is basically the alien version of the Scorpion tank that was in Halo Combat Evolved. But the main new vehicle in the game is the Spectre, this 3-seater Covenant hover car thing. I don't like this shit. You use it a few times throughout the campaign, but it's basically just a Warthog, but not as cool, and flips over about twice as often. It's a fine vehicle, but for the only real new addition in the vehicle department, not really. There's also new variants of older vehicles like the Goshawk, but honestly they're not even worth talking about. You can also hijack vehicles now, which is really fun and helpful, and is a cool addition when you don't get killed trying to do it 75% of the fucking time. But that kind of brings me to the overall difficulty of Halo 2. This game is way harder than Halo 1. On heroic difficulty, I wasn't dying all the time, but I noticeably had to play safer. I don't know if you take more damage or have less shield or what, but you definitely feel weaker compared to Combat Evolved, and that's not even mentioning legendary difficulty. Halo 2 is notorious for being the most difficult Halo, and definitely having the hardest legendary difficulty. I specifically didn't mention Jackal Snipers as an enemy type earlier because you don't really notice them on other difficulties, but on Legendary, they will fuck you up over and over and over. Luckily you can skip the one sniper alley on Outskirts by leaving the map. But even besides the Jackal Snipers, Legendary is just really, really fucking hard. I haven't played through the whole game on it, but I played a few missions, which is enough to know that it's hard as shit. Here's me trying to beat Cairo Station on Legendary. I give up. But overall, I think the difficulty is like fine on the game, but sometimes I think it's over the top, mainly in vehicles. You get these fun-ass vehicles to drive around in, but you get obliterated when you're on the higher difficulties, and especially on Legendary. Again, I haven't played through all the missions on Legendary, but it's just annoying from what I played because the vehicles are so fun, but sometimes you're forced to play extremely safe to live, like more safe than any other Halo. But take this opinion with a grain of salt, as I'm not about to finish the whole fucking game again on Legendary just to prove my point. Moving on, I quickly just wanted to talk about the music in Halo 2. Just as in Halo 1, the music is written by Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore. I'm kinda mixed on the music in this game. Some of the music is kinda mid to shit level, but then there's some fucking bangers that play. My favorite is Impend, also known as the song that plays at the end of Cairo Station. It's hype as fuck, and I think it fits the level perfectly. But overall, I guess the music doesn't take away from the game. But for the end of the single player section, I just wanted to talk about the campaign missions again. I think there's some iconic levels in Halo 2, some of my favorites in the whole series, at least so far. The missions are way more unique and varied than in Combat Evolved, and every single mission is completely different with basically no reused areas, which keeps the game feeling fresh. I do, however, feel like there's some missions scattered about that aren't all that memorable, and I kinda just wanted to be over. Like, Cairo Station is a banger. Amazing intro level, one of the best I've ever played. Love Outskirts, love Metropolis, love the Arbiter, then the Oracle, kinda shit and slow. Then the game keeps going, but my memory comes and goes even though I just played it. I remember Regret, I remember Gravemind, but Sacred Icon, Quarantine Zone, Uprising, High Charity, I don't know, they might as well all be the same mission to me. Checkpoints are also still broken. Fuck's sake. It genuinely feels like nothing was changed since Combat Evolved. There was one part on the last level where I just got dog shit checkpoints and I was trapped fighting Banshees in this long ass combat section with weak ass vehicles. This shit was infuriating. I don't know how they couldn't have checked this out and fixed it because I was having the same problems that I was back in Combat Evolved, where I was skipping checkpoints without even knowing. Bullshit. But overall, I think the campaign is pretty damn good. Definitely better than Halo 1. I actually had a realization while making this video and replaying some of the missions again, trying to get the par times and whatnot, that there's actually way more detail and variety than meets the eye. A lot of the things that I hated at first became a lot more tolerable on the second run through of the missions and was ultimately more enjoyable. It's still a little rushed in my opinion, but I think that the game gets sweeter over time. It's not just something you can play once and get it. Also, holy shit, I forgot to talk about the boss fights. They're pretty shit. Anyways, onto the multiplayer. Now, Halo 2's multiplayer is held in insanely high regards and is iconic for popularizing online gaming through Xbox Live. And I gotta say, I don't think there's a Halo multiplayer I'd want to play less than Halo 2. I know that sounds harsh, but I find myself enjoying basically every other Halo multiplayer more than Halo 2, except for maybe Halo Infinite, but we'll get to that in due time. The multiplayer follows the same structure of Combat Evolved, where you can play 4v4 or 8v8 on a lot of basic modes, with a few party modes mixed in. But I just feel like the combat doesn't hit in this multiplayer. It just feels off. Some of the maps are okay, but honestly most aren't that great to me. Like this map Headlong. I don't get it. It's been remade so many times and I just find this map to be shit.
We had 5 people playing! 5 people! And you guys barely won! Y'all suck! Y'all, we had 5 people playing!
I just don't understand this multiplayer and I get dogpiled every single time I play. I would assume most of the reason why I dislike this multiplayer so much is because of the people I'm playing against, who have probably been playing since the game came out and know every single button combo or whatever the fuck. Halo 2's multiplayer is not noob friendly at all and takes no prisoners when you play. For that reason, some love it, but for filthy casuals like me, I could take it or leave it.
And this species, as you see from the left side, are particularly flies.
But that leaves us with the Anniversary Edition of Halo 2, released by 343 Industries with the Master Chief Collection back in 2014. Let's see how it looks. Okay. Real quick, I just wanted to mention that the Anniversary Edition runs like penis on PC at least. It was frame dropping my shit like crazy, and I think I have a decent rig. I even bought more memory to see if I was being bottlenecked, but the game still ran like shit on Anniversary graphics, so you're just gonna have to excuse the bad frame rate. But anyways, the graphics look pretty beautiful. On top of the new graphics in-game, there's also completely redone cutscenes that literally look straight out of a movie. They look amazing. The music is also remastered as well, but I can't really play it. You're not missing out on a whole lot though. I like the new graphics in-game, but they kind of struggle from the same thing that Combat Evolved Anniversary did, where it just focuses too much on being flashy and graphically intensive that it loses some of the luster that Halo 2 had originally. Just as in Combat Evolved, everything is brighter and washes out detail. Like here in Cairo Station, I couldn't see these buggers to save my fucking life. They blended in so hard with the background. I might be blind, but it's just stuff like that where I feel like the combat is impacted a bit by the graphics, and the graphics of the campaign are only so good. I still prefer the original graphics. But unlike Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary has a multiplayer mode as well, and it's weird as fuck. It was essentially advertised as the definitive edition of Halo 2's multiplayer, adding in things that were supposed to be in Halo 2's multiplayer originally, like new power-ups and the assault rifle? I don't know. It's weird. There were a good few maps handpicked to be remastered for this version of the multiplayer, meaning that not all the OG maps are in the Anniversary Edition, but overall, yeah, I don't know if I really like this multiplayer. It's fun, I guess, but I still suck dick at it. But the really interesting part of Halo 2 Anniversary's multiplayer is that it's not the same engine as the campaign. Yeah, you see, the campaign was developed by Saber Interactive on the Saber 3D engine, the same engine used for Combat Evolved Anniversary. But Halo 2 Anniversary multiplayer was developed on the Blam engine, the engine used for all the Halo games up to Halo 5. You've probably heard that the Halo 2 Anniversary multiplayer uses Halo 4's engine, which is technically true, but it's the engine used for all the Halo games except for Halo Infinite, basically. I think the reason people say that is because a lot of the assets and textures from Halo 4 are reused in this multiplayer, most obviously shown is the Spartans. A lot of people say that Halo 2 Anniversary plays like Halo 4, but I don't get that at all. It just feels like Halo 2, but like in an alternate reality. The graphics in the multiplayer are visibly different too, and I think they look shit. I don't know. I think they just tried to make everything look cool, but the lighting just looks so off. It's either full bright or pitch black, no in between. Like, can someone explain to me in this footage why the buildings are so bright, but the guns in the Spartan's hand are like so fucking dark? Like, they do this in like every single map. It all looks like that. It just looks so weird. But yeah, that's Halo 2. An iconic game with an amazing campaign and a decent multiplayer. An overall good package. It has its flaws and can feel rushed at times, but I still really enjoy Halo 2 and find it really fun to play even to this day. A tier.